Hi, this is Belinda from Chasing Springtime. Today I've done a video for you about how to mend pants. Often they wear through on the inner thigh on the seam. I'm sure you will have noticed. But instead of using a pair of our black work pants today, it's very hard to see on black. We're going to do some denim jeans because it's easier to see. So what we've got is we've got our denim jeans, we've got the hole on the inner thigh, and then what we're doing is we've got some fabric that's a very similar colour. You can see it's got a little bit of stretch, and what we're doing is I'm just marking the fabric so that it's going to more than cover the hole in the denim, because when we sew the patch in, and we're going to sew it on the inside of the leg. At the moment we're looking at the outside of the leg. When we sew it in, we want to make sure that the thread is catching in fabric that's got some strength to it. So if the fabric's a bit worn and a bit frayed, it's got to hold on to the patch, and we don't necessarily want to do that if we can avoid it. Then again, we don't want the patch to take up the whole leg and to show at all times, so we've got to manage the size of the patch. So what I'm doing is marking the extremities of the patch. You can see I've got the 4 lines there, and then we're going to make it an oval rather than a square, because anything circular, it holds better, it doesn't fold over. It can be a little bit harder to sew, but you won't get the bunching of the corners and things. And it will fit over the hole in the pants quite nicely. So we mark that, and then we cut it out of our patching fabric. It doesn't matter if you do draw it with a dark texture. If you are patching black pants and you want to be able to see what you're writing on, then I recommend using a metallic pen. You can use a metallic Sharpie or one of those Uniball roller pens. I use them a lot when I'm marking fabric. They wash out eventually, but for this patch it doesn't matter. So now what I'm doing is I'm overlocking the edge of the patch so that it doesn't fray. Now if you are mending some ponte pants or some track pants or something like that, and they're in a knit fabric and you're patching it with a knit fabric, you don't actually have to do this step. So this is because we've got a woven fabric that can fray, and we just want to avoid it. If you don't have an overlocker, you can just do a zigzag stitch around the outside, whatever you usually do, so that a hem or a seam doesn't fray. So as you can see, we've got the wrong side of the fabric up for both the leg and the patch. So we're now on the inside of the leg. And so you might be able to see a little bit of the patch through the inner leg, and so we want the fabric that matches it the best to show there. Again, if you're using all black, probably doesn't matter. So what I'm doing now is I've got my hand inside the leg and I'm pinning the patch to the leg. And what we're going to do here is just make sure that they're both as flat and as you can get them. Like, you don't want lumps and bumps in your patch, or you don't want to stretch the leg to make it fit. And so what I'm doing is just pinning it. Now, you'll probably pin this a lot better than I did. I actually pinned in all the wrong directions, because when I went to sew it, the pins were the wrong way. So it's always best to think about it as in, okay, I'm going to be sewing in this direction, therefore I want to be able to pull the heads out of the pins out toward me when I sew it. But I'm not very good at thinking like that when I sew. So I'm just putting the pins in to hold it, and I worry about that as I'm sewing it. So once it's all in place and it's all pinned down, you can also tack it if you want to, if you just want to do big tacking stitches. So here you can see we've got our frayed piece. We do have a little bit of a hole there. We haven't tried to pull the fabric back over. We're going to work with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin down that soft bit, because if we start sewing it, it can catch or it can turn, and we just want it to be nice and flat. We don't want lumps and bumps, so we're just going to hold it in place and make sure it's nice and smooth. And as you can see the right side of the patch fabric below it, and it's matched pretty well. So these are jeans of a lovely customer of mine, and she actually supplied the jeans and the patch. I put a call out on social media to see who had some pants that needed fixing. Pinning just the other side of that inner seam as well, so that we're holding everything steady. Because what we're going to do is we're going to sew around the edge of the patch, and then we're going to sew around that sort of centre of the patch, and to hold it all in place. So just a straight stitch around those bits that I'm outlining with my finger. So I've got the machine set up with a thread that matches that the outside of the fabric of the jeans. And this is a bit more tricky bit because you're just sewing one leg, so you've got to try and ease one leg, like a narrow leg of pants, onto your sewing machine. And we're just about to sew, and as you can see, yes, I've got all my pins around the wrong way, but anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm actually sewing on my overlocking, so we're right on the edge. You do have to lift that presser foot like in the needle down position and move it along as you go, and maybe remove pins as you go. And what you're also doing is you're also making sure that the fabric of the patch and the pants is nice and smooth, so that you're not sewing any tucks or bumps into the fabric, and also that you're not catching the pants as you sew. It's very easy to catch the leg underneath, like as you ease it over the machine, that you actually caught up some extra pant. And if you do that, that's fine. Just stop sewing, unpick to where you were and start again. I think I did it when I was doing these ones actually, and I just fixed it and you can't see it. But don't pull it, because that fabric can be a bit worn around the leg, so you just want to unpick really gently, fix it, and then go back to it. So I'm trying to go round the whole patch, and this is where it can get really difficult when you're working with a narrow leg. So you've got a leg of pant and it's over the arm of your sewing machine. And so what you might need to do is you might need to get to a certain point, probably the bottom of the oval, and then go back to the top and sew round and down the other side. You can't rotate it 360, it's too difficult. So now we're going to secure the opening of the patch down so that we don't get the foot caught in it when we're sewing it later on. So that we've secured it, so it's not we're going to try and stop it wearing and pulling even further. So we're just going along the edges there, and you can see where the pins still are, and you can also see that the thread that we've used on the patches match the jeans quite well. And don't forget, this is the inner thigh, so you don't actually see it that much unless you're going to sit down and do a few yoga positions. You don't actually notice this so much. So we don't stress about this. Now, as you can see, I've got down to the bottom, and you can't turn the whole leg. So there's a lot of backward sewing in this. And my machine, you actually have to hold not the foot. There's a button that you have to physically hold down the whole time that you want to sew in reverse, and it can get a bit exhausting, and it's hard to direct the fabric. So it is sometimes easier just to take it out and go back the other way. So just securing all that, and you can go around it a couple of times. That's absolutely fine. Just easing it through, trying not to catch the jeans, taking the pins out as you go. And we're nearly down the bottom. And then we pivot it. No, what did I do? No, I would have cut it and just gone straight up to the top again. And then down the other side. Now, if you've got a machine where you can just put it in reverse, and then you can still use two hands to guide your fabric under the foot, then you could just do this backwards. You don't have to do your back and forward sewing to secure it, go up to the top and start again. So we're taking all the stitches out, and so now what we've done is we've secured our patch to our jeans around the edge of the patch. We've secured the edge of the opening, and we're on the right side of the fabric now. And we're just going to remove the last of those pins, because now our patch is fully secured to our pants. It's nearly good to go. And what we're going to do is we're going to do some giant zigzags. So this is not a zigzag stitch, this is a straight stitch. But what we do is we go backwards and forwards across the patch just to secure everything. Okay, there's our secured patch with some backwards and forwards sewing around that hole in the middle, just to try and hold all those frayed and loose threads down. I haven't trimmed it all, I've just sewn it down to secure it. And so now we're going to do the zigzag across, and what that's going to do is it's going to hold everything in place, and it just strengthens the patch and its connection to the pant. So sewing forward now, and then you're going to do a needle down, lift the foot and pivot, and then go backwards, and this is where you sort of start that zigzag shape but with a straight stitch. And we're just going to do that backwards and forwards across the patch, and you can see it there. This is also great to use for a knee patch, or I think once I had to mend my husband's pants at the back pocket, and I knew the stitches would show, so sometimes doing a bit of a funky zigzag means it's okay to show because it kind of looks interesting, it doesn't look boring. And so just zigzagging across, and because we've secured the middle of the center of the hole, we're not going to catch the foot in it as we go backwards and forwards, and that makes it much easier. And so you can see why we went to that trouble of securing that the frayed fabric in the center. Then it's much easier. I'm just coming to the end of those zigzags. They don't have to be the full width of the patch, because sometimes the patch can be quite wide and you might not want the zigzag showing on your front or back leg, and so you can bring them in a little bit as you get down the leg, which is exactly what I've done here. So that's the inside of the pant, the outside of the pant, and they're good to wear. And you can just see it there. You can just see the zigzags in the top of the screen, and as you can see, not that troublesome at all.